Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In this series of videos, I am going to be showing you gameplay. The reason I'm doing this is because I've made a number of videos and you can check them out on a playlist that I have on my channel about how to play Global War 1914. However, it's one thing to watch, just one thing like trench lines or just some other aspect of it. It's another thing to put it all together. Plus, there's a lot of little things in between those things that, they're not worthy of making a whole video out of. So by making a video with gameplay, I can show you how the game is actually played and catch those little things that are in between and talk a bit about some of the options that each nation is going to have. Now, I want to make it clear that this isn't a general hand grenade strategy video like you've seen in the past, where I tell you, okay, you're this country, so try to do this. This is a specific strategy, and I give it a name like Middle Earth or something. I love doing those videos, don't get me wrong. It's just that this isn't the purpose of these videos. So whatever I do in this game, don't think that that's what you should do or that that's the best thing to do. I'll tell you right now, I don't know that, in fact, I'm pretty sure I haven't figured out the best way to play this game as far as winning it. I know how to play it, I know the rules, but but that doesn't mean that I found the best way for each nation to play it. And I tell you, there's so much to this game, so many different layers that you could spend years trying to figure it out and still, finding something new at the end of that. So anyway, we're going to get to it. First of all, one of the things that I should tell you, I don't have my player aid, so we're not going to play the prequel. Because with the prequel, that's where you get your mini maps, the Mexican mini map and the Balkans mini map. So we're going to forego the prequel, and I don't think we need to do that anyway. I just want to show you how to play the game, right? And show you the components. Anyway, let's just take a look at the computer for a second here. I'm using my old camera because it's going to be easier for me to move around like this. I've got to show you things on the player aids and things like that. This is just going to be a lot easier for me to move around because this one's not connected to my big rig. If you've seen that on a previous video, then you can see it's quite heavy and large, and it's tough to move around with it. So anyway, I'm just going to take you here. So this is what you do. This is page 33. So it just kind of tells you the order with which you will play. Like down here is where you start your turn, the production phase. But before that, that's where you have to do things in a certain way. So let's just set it up now. I've got everybody's task, or not task, everybody's build plates set out. And I've got the right amount of cash on each of them. There's the Russian one up there. So I'm all ready to play the game. I've got all the pieces on the board. I've got the production, the facility and ship production chart all set up and ready to go. I've got the technology chart set. So when you're playing the 1914 game, you can see there's roundels already on there. That's because we found that when we played the prequel, there's 7 turns in the prequel. There was all kinds of technology already developed. And then when you start in 1914, there was none, right? Because nobody had anything. So we put some on there. And plus I'll show you when Germany's turn starts that you're also going to get more than that, or a lot of the nations are anyway. And I've got the IPP chart set up, and you can see we're starting in the summer of 1914, and you can see the writing on here. Now that's not quite corrected because this is an older playtest IPP chart. So I've got the new ones. Actually, I'll show you what it looks like. And these are the mandatory offensive markers, and we'll get into that later. So these are all the things I'm going to need. Over there, that's my diplomacy chart. Anyway, let's take a look at something here. So let's just here. So this is the IPP chart. Is blown up a bit. I'm just using it as a reference. So here we are over here, summer of 1914, and you can see it says random events. Begin global 1914, Japan entry roll, and Chinese warlord era. So at the start of your turn, the very first thing you do is you roll for the random events. There will be an east and a west. I believe the west comes first. And then says begin global war 1914. That just means that the war begins. Even if you started the prequel, the war begins now. Unless there's a random event that tells you that it's begun already. Then the Japanese entry roll. So you maybe find out whose side Japan is on. And then Chinese warlord era, you would begin the Chinese warlord era this turn, but not until the Chinese turn, of course, right? So anyway, that's the IPP chart. It's pretty nice, and you can see here, let me just get this on here. You can see like there's the prequel. You can see there's different colors. Like if you're a random ending, it should end here in the fall winter of 1918, but it could go on further, right? Anyway, that's basically what it looks like. I've got it zoomed in so I could read it. Let's go back, see what we got here. Okay, so this is the diplomacy chart, and you can see up in the corners here, that's where you'll put your roundels if you've got extra diplomacy. So anyway, I just wanted to show you those things. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to roll for random events, and this is the summer of 1914 West. You'll find this in the download section of 1914 on the HPG website. So I encourage you to follow along with this. I'm not going to go through all of them, and like these videos will go on forever if I give you all of them. But here's number 1914, summer 1914. You can see that there's 6 of them, right? So you're going to roll a 6-sided dice, and whatever number you get, that's what you have to do. And then you've got the east here, and again, there's 6 different things, right? Now, you're not going to be able to plan for any of these because the game hasn't even started yet, right? And if you were in the prequel, then the very first turn of the prequel, those random events, there's nothing you can do about that. But what I would encourage you to do is, strongly encourage you to do, is go ahead by at least 2 turns. So there's the fall, winter, west, fall, winter, east. You know, go ahead at least this far here and find out what's coming up. Always be at least 2 turns ahead, maybe even 3. And you don't have to memorize them all. It's just if there's something big coming up and it requires you to be in a certain place or to defend something, then you should do that. So while you're watching these videos, I encourage you as well to look ahead on the website and see what's coming up. This one, again, like I said, there's nothing that anybody can do about it. These things are going to happen. I can't do anything about it. So anyway, let's begin. Let's just set this down. So I've got we can move closer than that. I've got a 6-sided dice in there, and we are going summer of 1914 West. 5. Okay, number 5 is Russian mobilization. So Germany and Russia each roll a d6. The highest roll chooses one of the following. So A is Willie Nicky telegrams. Move a combined total of 4 Russian infantry from enemy land zones adjacent to German starting territories and place them on the place units box. Flurry of telegrams between the Kaiser and the Tsar comprise a series of 10 messages that lead to the Tsar to cancel Russian mobilization. That's the backstory. We've removed a lot of the backstories because we found that when we were playing, you're reading these out and people they're busy, getting ready for their turns and everything. After a while, we just didn't care. Like at first it's kind of interesting, but then it's like, yeah, what do I do? What do I need to do, right? So anyway, we're not going to roll for the East thing yet. We've got to fully resolve what's just happened. So we have to roll, Germany and Russia each roll a d6, and it's the highest roll wins. So tell you what, let's use the black dice for the German and the red dice for the Russians, and the highest roll wins. So the Russians win. So now the Russians choose from one of those two. Oh, I didn't tell you what the second thing was. So the second thing was Samsonov haste. Actually, I'm going to tell you, this is what they're going to do. Usually when you have a choice of two things, one is good for one side and the other is good for the other side. Obviously that one with move the Russians away was not good for the Russians. It was good for the Germans, right? So this is the one we're going with, and that's B, Samsonov's haste. So add 2 free Russian infantry to any one Russian starting zone adjacent to Germany. And then it gives a bit of the backstory. So we're going to go over there. And like I said, you have to fully resolve this before you go on to the next thing. So Russia gets 2, and it looks like I could just use 2 chips because there's infantry on all of them. Now, okay, so, and they have to be adjacent to the Germans. So like I couldn't put it down here. That's not adjacent to Germany, right? So let's go here in Lithuania so they don't sneak up, because you got to remember, this is your capital up here, right? So we don't want them scooting up here. We've got to guard against that. And the most likely place that he's going to want to go is this one, because if he goes past that one, well then these guys can just scooch right in there, right? So let's put it here in Congress, Poland. That's the name of that territory. There we go. So now that random event is fully done. If there was a rolling that needed to be done, like some of them, actually quite a number of them are, there's revolts. So normally there's a time limit, or like how many times you can roll, whether it's 1 or 3 or whatever. But when it comes to those, you have to resolve that. So if it takes you 10 rounds of rolling, then that's what you must do. Even though it's one guy against one guy and both of you keep missing, you just keep going because the random event has to be done, right? So now we go to the east. Okay, so let's roll the dice. And it's a 2. So, here, let's just show you that. It's an Albanian peasant revolt. So this is what I was talking about. Place 1 free attacking Ottoman infantry in Albania and resolve combat immediately. Russia controls the Albanians. That's for the roll. The victor immediately gets 1 free diplomacy roll. Okay, so where is that? In Albania. Okay, so let's set this down, and we need an Ottoman infantry. Okay, there we go. So Albania. Yeah, that's Albania. Okay, so we're attacking. That's into mountains, so we're attacking at 1, and they have a militia that defends at 2, right? So let's bring this over. Now remember, we have to keep going until it's done. So there's no, okay, you've only got 1 round, or you've only got 3 rounds, or whatever. We have to keep going until it's done. Let's do the blue dice for the Ottomans, and let's use the white dice for that strict neutral there. So 1 versus 2. Miss, miss. We just keep going until it's done. Miss, miss. Ooh, that's close. 2, but that's a miss. Misses. This could last well into the night. Misses. This game is really hard to attack, I tell you, because a lot of it is, like you just got infantry, like there's no planes, right? 2, that is a hit. So the Ottomans lose that fight. Let's just move this camera over. The Ottomans lose that fight. And what does it say we do? It says the victor immediately gets 1 free diplomacy roll. So that would be the Russians, right? So let's go over and take a look at the diplomacy chart here. let's see what Russia's doing over here. Now, Russia isn't much into diplomacy, so they begin the game not having done much, right? So then we look at the board over here, because that's not going to help us. So let's see what else could help us. Now, Romania looks good, but the problem with Romania is that they're already +1 on the French side, and so we we don't want to be taking it away from the French, right? Because they're on our side. We look up here. Now this one is +1 on the Germans, Finland here. So that would be good because they've got a boat and they've got a couple of units here. The problem is that if we're taking somebody down on the diplomacy chart, it's a 2 or less. But if we're going up on the diplomacy chart, it's 3 or less. So that's something to consider, right? Now, if these guys were at 3, then, well, you know, that's an obvious one. Yeah, well, let's do that one, right? But that's not the case. Mongolia, we can't go for because that's a strict neutral. And you know, like we could go Persia over there, but Persia, again, they're already up on the German track, right? And to bring them down, we needed 2. And you know, like that doesn't mean we don't do it. I'm just talking it through, right? Bulgaria, now that one's interesting because that's a strong one down here. That's close to Russia. That would help us out here, right? And we would be taking it down, but at the same time, like Bulgaria is 2 on the Austro-Hungarian one, and that would be something to bring them down because that's very important to the Austrians. I don't see anything on the board here that's really going to help the Russians. So maybe screwing the other side is about the best thing we can do, right? So let's do that. Let's roll for that one. Let's roll for Bulgaria. So that means that we've got to hit a 2 or less. Let's get a brown dice for the Russians. Here we go. And a miss. So that random event is done. And now we move on to the next part, which, here, let me just go look at that again. I believe it's the Japanese entry roll. Yeah, Japan entry roll. Okay. So, let me just pull this book out so I can show you where to find these kind of things. Because again, that's what this video is about, is learning how to play the game. That's Italy, and there's Japan. Okay, so here's your reference sheets. And I wouldn't encourage you to print these off yet, because there are still corrections to be made. If you do print them, unless you get free ink and free paper at work or something, don't bother. And if you do bother, then just print them in black and white for now until I tell you, go ahead and start printing. Anyway, here, this is how you do the outcome. So a 1 to 2, they join the Central Powers. 3 to 5, they remain neutral. And 5 to 12, Japan joins the Allies and aligns to Britain. The other thing is, after that, if it becomes a 3 to 5, then the next turn is you got a slightly better chance of joining the Allies, and that's it. And if you're playing an independent player like Japan, somebody's just playing Japan, they can do +2 on the dice either way. Like if they want to join the Central Powers, it would be a 1 to 4, for instance. So anyway, let's do Japan entry roll. I don't have an orange dice, so let's do the yellow one. Okay. Let's see. This is actually a pretty big deal in this game. Okay, 10. That's the Allies. So Japan joins the Allies, and now we know the income. I didn't know the income before because the income is double if they're playing for the Central Powers than if they're playing for the Allies. So their income, I believe, is going to be 6. Okay, so we're all ready. We've done the random events and anything that is on the IPP chart that we're supposed to do to begin the game. And, or to begin this round. I mean, you do that every round, not just the beginning of the game. So now it's Germany's turn. And before I get to that, I'd just like to say I had a conversation with Admiral Seabass recently in the last couple of weeks, and he was asking me, you know, when you play this game by YouTube, what would be, is there anything that you can suggest, after playing the game a bunch? And I had to think about that, and I think that you guys will probably come up with some things too. But one of the things that to me would be pretty obvious is that you can't do that on the first turn, like the turn that we just did. But beginning on this round, like at the end of this round, what I would do is the American player takes his turn, and he takes the Chinese turn, and then have the American player do the stuff that's supposed to go at the start of the round, like the random events, and if there's something else that needs to be done after that. Because then when Germany takes their turn, they can just start playing, right? Because when you're playing a game on YouTube, you want your turn to be continuous so that you're not stopping the camera like I'm going to be doing throughout this playtest, or not playtest, this game that I'm playing here, because I'm the only one. I'm not worried about it. But it would be helpful if Germany knew before they planned their turn what they can do. And I've had like an hour since the last time I was on camera. I had to go for lunch and stuff. So, like that, I've had lots of time to think about what I could do after what happened with those random events. But those things can throw you for a loop, right? They can change what you want to do. And so now you have to rethink everything. And for you to rethink on camera is just going to add time, which is going to make it more difficult for people to watch your videos. So that's one thing that you can do is have the player that goes last in the turn order on the very last video of a turn do those random events and whatever else has to be done. So when the German player starts their turn, they don't have to do those things. They know, like everybody else in the round knows, what has happened with the random events. Anyway, there we go. So Germany. Now, one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you understand, and here's the German reference sheet, is that you understand what's going on with Germany. There's not that much on these reference sheets. They're not pages and pages long. Like here, there's that page there that you need to know. These are the points, but you don't really need to know them till near the end of the game. And there's this little blurb over here, and that's like the starting technology that is already on the board, and your elite infantry unit. The rest is just your setup charts, right? And then there's nothing on this page. So there really isn't that much to know, but you need to know what's there. Like you need to know, like where's your bonus income. And let's just go through these things for Germany. So one thing is that because they're on stage 2 diplomacy in Chile, that means they get to collect an IPP from Chile. As long as that country is worth at least 1 IPP, you can collect an IPP if you can trace a supply path back to the German home country. But if Chile was worth 2 or 3 or 4, doesn't matter. You can still only collect 1 IPP at most for these countries if you're at stage 2 or higher. And then of course when you aligned them, then you would collect all of the money for them, right? So that's one thing. There's your starting income. We're at war when we began in 1914. So that's the income, and everybody's starting income, that's how much you get. Their income is set where it is. So the bonus income, that's if you're at war like we are. So a major shipyard in Western Germany is not blockaded, or the Netherlands remains neutral. Both of those things are true, and that's not going to change on this turn, but we need to know that going forward. Sweden and Norway are neutral or aligned, and that's worth an extra IPP. And this last one here, we're not going to be able to get for a while. It says Germany can trace a railway supply path to southern Iraq, and that's worth 2 IPP. There's also one for the Ottomans that gives them an extra 2 IPP, but that's only from Constantinople to Germany. So let's get rid of this book here. We don't need it anymore. Anyway, we're not going to be able to do that because we're going to need some help from Austria and the Ottoman Empire. What they need to do is they need to have Serbia and Bulgaria, and then this is southern Iraq down here. So there is no rail line from northern Iraq. So you would either have to build a link here or here. Either one would be fine. And then you would be able to do it, right? To be able to collect that 2 IPP. So we know we can collect the first 2 bonuses, but not the last one, right? So that's one thing that we need. We need all the information that we can get. And that's some of the background information before we even start. Now, when we begin our turn, there's the technology, right? And it works the same as it does in Global War 1936. Germany has 2 major factories, and they can roll 2 dice. But before we get to that, there is one more thing that most of the major countries in the game have, and that's what you're going to get off the reference sheet again. Not all of them get it, but most of them do, and Germany is one of them. So, as I said earlier, there was a lack of technology starting in 1914 for the game compared to if you started in the prequel. So what we did was we added these things on here, right? So Germany has already got defense in depth at stage 1. They've got strategic bomber stage 1, and they've got improved factory stage 1. But we also wanted you to have, like maybe those aren't the ones that you would have went for in the prequel. So you have a choice. You can pick 2 more and put a pie at stage 1, or you can pick one of them and put a pie at stage 2. And like I said, some of them have that, some of them don't. So let me just set this down. And then you kind of want to have an idea before you start what you're going to do, because you know that this is going to happen and nothing's going to change it from happening. Now those ones that you already had, you can't enhance those. It says other technologies, so you wouldn't be able to put it on strategic bomber, for instance. So wartime economy is good for everybody. That's where you roll the 2d6 and collect that money. Germany is already at the top of the scale as far as how much money they get. They're tied with Britain for the most. So most others need it even more than they do. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 for wartime income, and I'm going to help myself on the trench lines, and I'm going to go for counter battery fire stage 1. So there we go. So counter battery fire up here and wartime economy. So now Germany's finished that. Now they get to roll because they've got 2 factories, right? And this you can enhance whatever's up there. Like this is the starting point where we're at right now. So now we can go for any of those. So let's go for that wartime economy again. And wartime economy is 8 or more. So we need an 8 or higher. 10, so we got that one. And let's go for defense in depth. 10, so we got them both. That's a really good start for Germany. And we kind of need it, and I'll show you why. We're kind of behind the 8 ball. See, now if I would have taken 2 for wartime economy, they'd only be one step away from that right now. So, but that's okay though. Having counter battery fire, let me just explain what that is. So there's attrition attacks in the game, and that's your artillery. If you haven't used your artillery, any piece of artillery, and you're adjacent to somebody, you might as well just blast away, right? And artillery, you shoot at a 1, and heavy artillery at a 2. So like if you haven't used that artillery, you can't move it, you can't do anything with that artillery except for that attrition thing. If somebody attacks if you have counter battery fire, if somebody does that to you, then any artillery that you have in that zone, you can shoot back at their zone. So that's kind of handy, right? And it's the same thing. It's artillery 1, heavy artillery 2. So that's just, it's a bit of a deterrent. Like if you've got 12 artillery in that zone, then maybe the guy doesn't want to, use his 3 artillery to shoot at you, right? Because you've got a dozen shooting back at him. So Then we don't have any units to repair. We don't have any, your capital ships, nothing like that to repair. We don't have any facility damage, so that's something you would do in a production phase, just like in 36. So then we can move on to purchasing. And this is what I've purchased over here. First of all, these are the things that were on the production chart, or the ship and facility production queue. They were on the place units box. A couple of subs, a coastal sub, and a torpedo boat destroyer. I put them over here so I don't forget them. So I bought 12 infantry. 8 infantry. So that's $24. I'm going to upgrade one factory, so that's 5 IPP and a manpower icon. You do have to pay that manpower icon. I'm going to upgrade a trench fighter to an infantry, and I'm gonna place a colonial infantry to an infantry, and I'm going to place a colonial infantry. And then I've got $2 here. I'm going to do 2 diplomatic roles. They cost 1 IPP each. So let's do that first. Now these diplomatic roles could be done, and your technology roles could be done when the previous player is playing, except in the case of Germany, really, because Germany needs to know what the random events are before they go ahead and do anything, really. But like Britain, once Germany has probably done their attacks and stuff, and you know how things are going to turn out, then Britain could be taking their diplomacy roles and their technology roles, just like in the 36 game. So let's take a look. We're going to do 2 roles. Let's take a look at what we should do. Excuse me. So this is Germany over here, and again, we're using an old diplomacy chart. It's going to look a lot nicer than the new one. I showed it to you. So here, Persia is at 2, stage 2, and so is Chile. Let's just take a look over here. Now, Persia, I'm not in favor of doing if I was the German player, because when you look at Central Persia here, if you were to take it out, then the Germans could roll through there easily, right? If you don't take it out, then the British have to pay a penalty of 5 IPP to declare war on them. Plus the Americans' income goes down by 5 IPP. So that guy's providing a natural barrier there, just being a Persian. So that's not a good one. We'll just leave that guy alone. Chile is a good one, because you've got an infantry, a colonial a militia, and you've got a cruiser. Cruisers are pretty darn good in this game, right? Now, there's also, at 1 on the chart, Argentina. Argentina is really good because you have a factory down here, you have a couple of infantry, you have a cruiser, and you have a pre-dreadnought. That's really good. That's one of the best ones on the board. But probably what's even the kicker on that is that you have a factory down here in the southern hemisphere which can create a supply path over here. So when you want to do a colonial troop upgrade, you can trace it back to that factory, because trying to trace it up there through the British Navy, like right now you can do it, but the British Navy is going to try to do what they can to prevent that from happening, right? So one way you can avoid that is by having a factory down here. So Argentina, really good. What else do we have up there? Norway and Mexico. Those are also really good. Now Mexico, there's Mexico up there. There's only 2 infantry and cavalry there right now. But if you look ahead in the random events, there's a few things in there that are pro-German, like that's going to help you out when it comes to Mexico. And I tell you, you can put a lot of pressure on the Americans. They don't have a lot of stuff, and they don't have very, very much money. Like their income is only at 3 right now. Like they've only got $3 to spend on the first turn, right? So if you put pressure on them early, you know, that can make a difference in the game. So Mexico is a good one to have. And then Norway is also good because if you're looking ahead at the place units, so not only do they already have three infantry and a torpedo boat destroyer, but in 2 turns from now, there's a cruiser going to be added into Norway. So those are your choices, right? I mean, you could choose anything. Probably the best one on the board is the Netherlands, but it's at 0, right? So when you're looking, you've got some good choices here for Germany. The other ones, like here, Greece, you could try to bring Greece down. But again, you got to roll a 2 or less. To go up, it's 3 or less. So you've got a better chance of hitting these than you do hitting something that's already up on somebody else's line, right? Like Brazil is already +1 for the Americans. You'd have to hit a 2 to bring it back here, right? Anyway, so I think Chile for sure. And then it's between these 3 for the second one. Let's go for Norway. I kind of like that cruiser or torpedo boat destroyer up there. So let's do those 2. All right. So we're going to go Chile, and we need a 3 or less. Look at that, we got a 1. Wow, Germany is just killing it in the rolling so far. And then Argentina. And that's a 9. Okay. So Chile is up to stage 3. And that's good. We can use the benefits that they have as well, right? Stage 3 gives us more benefits. Anyway, now we move on to the next phase, because we've done everything we're going to do on the production phase. Let me just sit down here. We're going to talk about this. So, remember those random events that we just did? The one that the Russians put in 2 infantry, 1 here and 1 here, that really screwed me up. I can tell you that right now, because, let me move this up a bit without killing anybody. No, that's cutting out the light. Okay, let's just move them right here. Okay, we zoom in a little bit on the Western Front. Okay, so here, this is the thing I was talking about in my last video that I think I forgot. So there's a fortification there in Lorraine, and they've got 4 infantry, 3 artillery, and a fighter. I tell you, if you don't jump on that guy now, he's going to dump all he's got into here, because this is a choke point right here. Like on one side you've got Switzerland, and on the other side you have Belgium. So the only way the Germans can attack the French is to go to Lorraine. Now, Germany needs to make a choice. They've got more than enough stuff here in Western Germany to take out Belgium. Belgium also has a fortification, by the way. But they can easily take out Belgium. But the question is, do you want to extend the trench line? Because that's a choke point now. Remember what I said about Persia, about the Allies attacking a neutral. So they're not going to attack Belgium, right? They're not going to pay that penalty and then take the attrition of losing guys attacking the fortification and the units in there just to extend the trench line. So it's up to Germany. Do you want a trench line that's 2 territories wide, or do you want that choke point where you choose whether or not you're going to extend the trench line to 2 spaces? Because you could go after one and go after the other, or not at all. And one of the things that Germany gets to do at the start of the game, before you do anything, they can move 5 units from one home country territory to another home country territory. So what I was going to do before that random event was drawn that favored the Russians there, I was going to take 5 units from here, put them here, and take Lorraine. Because they'd be in tough right now to take Lorraine. Even if they gallop their 2 horses over there, they'd be in tough taking Lorraine if we didn't beef them up, right? But those 2 extra guys that we put on for the Russians there, we meaning me, sorry, I'm trying to take a look here. that really kind of screwed us up here. Because, like, we had enough there to take this out. If you combine this, this, and this, we could have taken that out. Then we could have fortified this, right? So we would have been fine. But now this is tougher to take. And then they've got an extra guy here. So if we did what I just suggested that I wanted to do, and that's move your 5 guys over to Bavaria and take Lorraine, that's going to leave us vulnerable on this side of the board because of that random event. And that's the cool thing about these random events. It could have just as well gone the other way. Imagine if we would have taken 4 units off of there and put them on the place units box, right? That would have made it way easier to attack over here, right? But that's not the case. So now we wonder, would it be better to take the 5 units from Western Germany and take this out? Because that would ensure that we would get it, plus leave us enough troops left over. But the problem is, how are we going to get Lorraine then, right? Because like I said, we'd be tough to get Lorraine going against a fortification, and with the amount of units that we have there. So you can see the dilemma that we have here, right? It's normally pretty clear what you want to do, but this random event has kind of screwed us, right? Anyway, one of the things that I considered doing, see what I was going to do was this factory here. I was going to increase that medium factory on Bavaria to a major factory, and that would help us out because that's on the border with France, so we could place more artillery and other things there. It's not going to increase our manpower, but it could increase the number of other things that we could put there. That's very important. Plus getting that extra technology roll, that's really important too. But because of what's happened here, maybe I not do that and put on an artillery instead and go for the factory on the next round, right? See, you see what I mean? Things are not easy. This game is really quite complex in a different way than the other one is. The other one, you've got more unit types, but this one, it's more important exactly the unit type that you have. Anyway, I think I'm going to do that. You know what? I think I'm going to take off that factory, and it costs the same amount as an artillery. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to buy an artillery instead of a factory. That's going to help us out. Plus, the other thing was I was going to have to pay a manpower icon. So I was only going to be able to put 2 infantry here if I done that, right? But then, now that I've done that, so still, what do I do? Where do I take those 5 units? The other thing is, I could take the units from Berlin, but that doesn't really help me though, because like that would help me if I was going to go into Belgium, right? Because I would need these units over here. So using these units, taking them to Bavaria, we could have taken both of them. Again, though, it's those damn Russians and their stupid little random event. So anyway, these are the type of things that we're thinking about. And this is just Europe. Europe is the most important thing, but we have got the Pacific to consider for the Germans as well. We've got Africa to consider, and of course we've got our subs to do some raiding. So let me just pause the camera and give me a minute to plan out my whole turn here. All right then, so I've made my decision. What I did, and I've moved them already, and it's a good thing because it involved a lot of my fat fingers knocking over a lot of pieces. So what I've done is I've moved 3 infantry from here to Bavaria, 1 heavy artillery over, and 1 regular artillery. So my attack moves is, all of these guys are going to attack Lorraine. Anyway, I'm taking this thing here, and I'm going to bring these things off. So all of these guys are going to attack Lorraine. Got let's see, what is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 infantry, 6 artillery, 1 heavy artillery, the Red Baron, a balloon. We're going to take 1 of the cavalry, 1, 2. Cavalry's going in. We're going to take the Zeppelin in, 1, 2. So Zeppelin goes in. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to take the other cavalry and we're going to these guys are all going into Congress Poland. So we'll grab the other one of these things. Let's just move this sucker back. And we've got the cavalry. We've got 2 guys from Saxony. We've got 2 guys from Eastern Germany. We've got the fighter. We got to keep these separate too, because these guys from East Prussia have to go across a river. And actually it's only the infantry we have to worry about, because the artillery, like I was saying earlier in the video the other day, the terrain is pretty much the same. So artillery isn't modified by a river. It shoots over the river. Anyway, so it's but the infantry doesn't. So that's all we're doing for combat moves up here in Germany. You can see they're all going into Congress Poland there. Now, elsewhere on the board, one of the things we're going to do is you can take 1 German cruiser and make it into 2 German raiders. So they're much weaker, but they're really hard to catch, right? You have to catch them with a unit that goes 3. So that would be a torpedo boat destroyer or a cruiser. And then when you do, their attack value goes down by 3. So a torpedo boat destroyer, instead of 4, would be rolling at a 1, trying to kill one of these things. And a cruiser normally rolls at a 6. It would be rolling at a 3 to try to kill these. So one of these guys is going to go here. Yeah, right here. He's going to raid the convoy line. The other guy, see, one. The other guy's going to go here and raid the convoy line. Same convoy line. They raid at 0. Okay, that's what's happening. That's the only thing that's happening in Asia as far as combat moves. Over here in Africa, I'm not going to do anything because it's really difficult to attack, right? And all I've got is colonial infantry, so they'd be rolling at 1. This guy going into here, it'd be 1 against 4. Not a good idea. I'd rather defend against him going in, right? So that's what we're going to do until we build some units up down there and people start attacking. But right now, 1-on-1 is not a good idea for the attacker. But I do have a couple of subs. In this game, no aircraft carriers. Fighters, not a thing. Especially on combat air patrol, not a thing. The only thing that can hit a submarine right now in this game would be a seaplane, and you can't even pair them with a destroyer, torpedo boat destroyer, until you've developed depth charge and hydrophone technology. The British are only at stage 1 on that. Nobody has got any stages on that. So you don't have to worry too much, and that makes it easier to move your transports around, by the way, too, when you can't get hit by fighters, right? So we're going to move this guy over here because I'm not in range of any seaplanes in either one of these 2 places. This guy's going to raid here. This guy's going to raid here, right here. And then the 2 cruiser raiders are also going to convoy. I guess probably one thing I should have said is that before the game begins, you kind of talk with the other players and decide what things are going to be import and which aren't import. And so in this game that I'm playing here, I will just tell you as I go along. I have it in my mind what's going to be import and what isn't. And I'll just let you know as I'm going along. But Just so you know, though, you should have this conversation with the other players in the game. You can use the import markers to mark them all. You need a lot of them because there's a lot of ships to start the game off with. You can just say, okay, listen, all the neutrals are in port, you know, like just whatever you want. Just make it up as what you want in port and what you don't want in port. Because there's advantages and disadvantages to both of them. Anyway, so I have got that done, and let me just set up the combats and we'll come back. Okay then, it is time to go on to the next stage, which is combat. So we've got those two cruiser raiders going after that line down by Australia, and by the way, those are at +1. I said something, I think I said 0 before. They're actually at +1, so the black one is going to be German and the red one is going to be the British, and this works the same as it does in the 36 game. So here we go. 4, 5, 6 over 1. So yeah, that's maximum. We max that line out because the maximum is 2. Can't take any more than 2 off them. Okay, now we've got the sub that's further north on the London line. The maximum there is 6. And that's a miss. Okay, try that again. And the other sub is also going to go on that line. And we've got 5, 6, 7 over 2. So 5. All right, let's go mark those. Had a couple markers out already here. So we've got 2 here. We need a 5 on this line, and we can take these off now. So the British are going to lose some money. Unfortunately, I already planned their buys out, but that's okay. I'm going to have to modify them. They've lost 7 IPPs. Let's do Lorraine first. There's a fortification there. So first things first, we got to do the first strike, right? Fortification first strike is 5s. So there we go. And then your ground troops are going to be boosted by 2. It doesn't stack, so the fighter normally would kick up the artillery by 1. That's not going. That's not going to happen. So we've got 4 infantry and oh, sorry, we're just doing first strike. We've got 3 artillery. So let's just get these 3 here. So there we go. We've got 2 at 5. And 3 at 6 because artillery attacks and defends at 4 in this game. +2 for the fortification is 6. And I'm sorry I don't have my battle boards. But like I said, I don't want to use the old ones because there's so many mistakes on them. I don't want people to get confused by that. I would rather use the right ones. Okay, here we go. First strike. This is for the French. And that's a hit. And that's a hit. So 2 hits. First strike for the French. Now we do first strike for the Germans, and they do get to modify with their observation because they're not using a fortification, and there's no rivers, no mountains, nothing like that. So there's 3 aircraft that can boost artillery, and I have, what is that, 6? I think it's 6 artillery, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So 3 of them are boosted. Here, let's just roll them. So 3 regular artillery at 4. 1 hit. Okay. And 3 artillery at 6. Or sorry, at 5. That's a miss. And then we've got 1 heavy artillery at 6, and that's a hit. So 2 hits each. Now, this is where it gets kind of dicey because it's really more important in this game what you're losing because you want to keep that trench line. Now, France doesn't have a trench line, so it doesn't matter so much for them in this attack, but the Germans want to make sure they have at least 6 infantry left after this combat is over. That's if they think they can get them, right? So they want to lose something other than infantry if they can, but at the same time, artillery costs 2 more than an infantry. So you got to get that fine balance, right? And I could see, you know, somebody rolling for them and their opponent on YouTube, and the other guy, well, I wouldn't have lost that many artillery or, you know, infantry or whatever, right? So I'll tell you what we're going to do. The French, they're going to lose the fighter, because fighters at the beginning of the game are hardly worth anything. And they're going to lose an artillery because they've already shot. They're using their fortification. So they want to get as many shots as they can at 6. And that's what they're going to do with their 4 infantry. The Germans are going to lose their fighter. And they're going to lose the cavalry, even though it hasn't shot yet. Okay. So that's the casualties taken off for that. Now, the Germans have 9 infantry, 7 of which are boosted. So let's just do 2 infantry at 2. Misses. And then 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at 3. Nothing. Sucks to be you, Germany. Okay, France has 4 infantry at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Whew. So, like, if I lost 4 infantry, now we're down to 6. Wow. Wow. Question is, do they keep going? Well, they've made it through the fortification now, so I think Germany's going to keep going. So they have got 6 infantry, all boosted. So 2, 4, 6 at 3. 1 hit. Okay. And then they have 6 artillery, 2 of them boosted. So let's do the 2 boosted. This is at 5. Okay, there's another hit. So that's 2. And then we've got 4 artillery at 4. And that's another hit, so that's 3 hits. And then we've got heavy artillery. Oh, let's get these out of here. Oh, and that's a miss. Okay, so 3 hits, and then France has 4 infantry at 4, and the 2 artilleries at 4 too, so we'll just roll them all. 2, 4, 6. 1, 2, 3 hits. So 3 more off the Germans. Let's take 3 artillery. 1, 2, 3. And what did we get? We got 3 off of them. Let's just take 3 infantry, because it doesn't matter with our trench line now. So now France has 3 units left. And we got to think about this. I think the Germans go for it. I think they do. Yeah. So we're going to do that. So there's only 4 artillery left. So 4 of the infantry is boosted. 2, 5. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. France is done. So France has 3 at 4. And 1 hit. So we're going to lose 1 more infantry because we want that trench line, even though it's pretty likely that they're not going to be able to hang on to that trench line. So the fortification comes off, and we'll put the units on. Now we've got Congress Poland right here, these guys. So these guys are going across the river. They're the only ones in the that are subject to a modifier for terrain. But first of all, we do the first strike. So we got 3 artillery and 1 heavy artillery for the Germans, and one of them's boosted. Let's boost the heavy artillery. So it's going to fire at 7 instead of 6. So 3 at 4, 1 at 7. Just 1 hit. Okay. This is all first strike, right? And then we have the Russian artillery at 4, and that's a hit. Okay, we each got a hit. So, you know what? Both of them are going to lose the horsies. They only defend at 2, and they attack at 3. But I'm thinking for Germany, it's the attack back at them, right? You know, when Russia comes back at them. That's why I'm losing the horses. Okay, so we have got 4 infantry. That should only be oh no, that's 4, that's right. So 4 infantry at 1 and 4 infantry at 2, and then I can modify them with these. Any combination that I want. So let's do, you know what, let's boost these ones that are going over the water. No, let's boost the other ones. So we'll go 4 at 2, or 4 at 1, and 4 at 3. That's what we're going to do. So 4 at 1, missed, and 4 at 3, missed. That sucked. Okay, Russia. So they've got a horse at 2, missed, and they've got 5 infantry at 4. 1, 2. So 2. Okay. We're going to take off the plane, and we'll take off 1 infantry. We want to make sure, see right now we've got 7 infantry. We want to make sure we have at least 6. To have more than that would obviously be way better. Although I don't think that we're going to do that well because they've still got a ton of stuff here. Okay, anyway. So let's do 3 at 1. And 4 at 3 again. So 3 at 1, misses. 4 at 3, this is all German infantry. And more misses. And then 3 artillery, none of them boosted because we don't have that plane anymore. Nothing. And then a heavy artillery at 6, 1 hit. Wow. Let's take off an infantry. So we've got 2, 4, 5. We've got 6 at 4. 2, 4, 6. Because they all defend at 4. 1, 2. So 2 Germans. If I took that off, there'd only be 5 left. I don't think I'm going to be able to maintain a trench line anyway. In fact, it's almost time to give up. Let's take off one of these infantry and 1 artillery, and I'm going to go 1 more round, and I can only go 1 more round, right? Like it's a maximum of 3 rounds. So we've got 3 infantry at 1, 3 infantry at 3, 2 artillery at 4, and 1 artillery at 6. 1 hit. Wow. So we'll take off this guy. So we've got 5, 2, 4, 5, 5, 1 hit. Okay. Well, I tell you, that did not go well for the Germans, did it? And see, this is what I was worried about. When you add in those extra 2 infantry like that, sure, only one of them went in Congress, Poland, but that 1 infantry got a couple of hits, right? That is harsh. So let me put these guys back to where they belong. Okay, tell you what, I'll just pause this right now because I'm going to clean up the mess too. Well, that was some carnage, wasn't it? As Germany's first turn usually is in this game. So this is what I've done. I've moved 2 back here, and I moved the artillery back here, and I've moved 3 infantry over here. The reason that I've done it this way is because Austria is going to go before Russia. So Austria, they would have much rather gone here or here, but now they could at least go here so that the artillery is safe. We've got a rail movement of 2. We've got stuff here in Berlin we can move up. Plus we can place units, right? We've got manpower markers everywhere here. And remember, we bought 8 infantry for the Germans, and so that's going to help. We took out Bavaria up here. Anyway, now time for non-combat moves. Let's just leave 2 infantry in Western Germany. We got that choke point, remember? So we're going to move most of what we have over to Bavaria. So we've got 7 infantry there. And then we're going to move all but 1 of the artillery over. We're going to move 1 artillery over to Eastern. Okay. Let's move the heavy artillery down as well. Let's move the fighter down. And we've got this Zeppelin up here. We can move that out of there because we've only got 2 spaces. Let's move it back as well. So now we've got 4 dudes in Germany. Let's move 1 of them to Saxony and 3 of them to Eastern Germany. There we go. You know what? Let's take 1 of those dudes from Western Germany that we haven't moved yet. And let's move him up to East Prussia on the rails. Okay. So we've still got a rail movement of 1 if we want it. And we're not going to. Okay, well, we can't move the subs. We can't move those cruiser raiders. I don't want to move my ships because they're nice and protected in there. We do have this thing that we should move out of here because it's surrounded by Japanese and they're not on our sides, the dirty buggers. So 1, oh yeah, that ship's in that zone. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to move him down to here. Oops. There we go. Yeah, I think that's the best I can do. Okay. Get rid of this convoy marker. Okay, we've done that. Now, I don't think that it's going to do me any good to move any of the guys down in Africa. The only other unit we have is this destroyer, torpedo boat destroyer here. And he's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Right here, right? So let's see if we can add him to somebody's navy. Yeah, then I don't think I can because I can't get him up to the Austrian navy. There's that thing right here. See, there's a mine here because that's a narrow crossing. So I can't get through there unless I want to run that mine. And I take the risk of losing my torpedo boat destroyer. I would rather lose him to another navy and get a shot back at somebody, right? So let's just keep him, okay? That's it. So that's it for that phase, the non-combat movement phase. We'll move on to the next phase. Okay, time to place units. So, first of all, we're going to do the colonial troop upgrade. So we'll upgrade him to an infantry. By the way, these are, in case you hadn't noticed, these are Askari warriors. And some of the major powers use these in this war. And so I'm using them for the German colonial troops just in Africa. They didn't fight outside of Africa. So there's that. And then I've also bought a colonial troop. And he's going to go into German East Africa here. So there we go. We've added 2 there. While we're on this side of the board, let's just change this. So the Germans got 3, went up 3 for Lorraine. And the French went down 3 for Lorraine. And let me put this up here. Can I see everybody? Okay. Now, I have got manpower icons. Now remember I had 12 infantry, right? That I was, or, yeah, 12 infantry I was putting on. No, 8 infantry, sorry. That's a bit of cheating. So 1 there, that's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, I'm putting 3 in Western Germany, and I'm putting 2 in Bavaria, that's 7, 8. Okay, then I'm going to put my artillery that I bought instead of the factory in Bavaria. Yeah, I think so. You see, Western Germany, even though it is protected from a land invasion, that doesn't mean that the British can't come through here. But all they've got up here is 1 transport. So I'm not worried about it because they don't even have any Marines. Basically, they'd have 2 infantry coming in here, and I've got 4 guys there. So that should be enough. Plus, I've got a seaplane I could lose as a casualty. I guess he goes last. So, you know, and then I've got the coastal gun. So I don't need to overprotect that. If there was 2 transports there and a couple of Marines, different story, right? But that's the thing about this game. Like I said, attacking is hard, especially amphibious assaults, because you got that first round where it's just infantry getting off the boat and no fighters, no tactical bombers, no air support of any kind, right? And so that makes it extremely difficult to do amphibious assaults. You got to go with big time overwhelming odds, right? These things aren't in a port because I don't need them to be, right? I can get out through the Kiel Canal, but nobody can get in. Also, these boats here get to go on because they were on the place units box. So let's place this guy over here. That's a torpedo boat destroyer, a coastal sub. Let's put the coastal sub in there. Now, the sub, like, I put them out here, right? So I can get them further out right off the bat, but there's 2 seaplanes here. And they're within range, 1, 2, 1, 2. So they could be taking me out with seaplanes, right? So I'm going to have to place the subs again with all these other things in here. And again, I don't really need to put them in port. Like if the Russians want to go after them with these boats, hey, go for it. You know, I'm almost better off leaving them out of there because that just entices them, right? And also, like if I lose the territory that they're in port in, then I run a chance of losing those boats, right? If you've seen my import video, then you'll know what that means. If you haven't, then maybe you want to go take a look at that. Anyway, that is me placing my units. So now all we do is we collect the income, and at this point, I'm looking there. Chile is the only one that I can collect that dollar. Like you look at Persia there, and that guy that's the one that's on Persia here, that's not worth an IPP, so I can't collect for that one. Okay, Sweden is worth $1. Okay, it's the major shipyard, or the Netherlands that was worth 2. So 3 in bonus income plus 39 is 42 IPPs that the Germans will collect this turn. So 10, 20, 2, there we go, 42 IPP. Let's get rid of the rest of this money here. And you know what, I'm going to say that's the end of this video, and then I'm going to take a look around and see if I made any mistakes, so I might come back. So, assuming I don't come back, thanks for joining me. This has been Germany in the summer of 1914, kicking off the First World War. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.